Hey there, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo.
Second episode of our new format, I guess. This week, I have...
Who are we?
Oh, I'm Robin Grace. This is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
If you're new to the podcast, we talk about different topics that might be a little scary-ish. For some people, absolutely horrifying. Like today's...
Depends on the topic, really.
Today's episode, at least for someone like me who's very claustrophobic, it is very, like...
Interesting.
The whole time I'm like, anxiety. You know, we have different topics like true crime, ghosts, stuff like that.
I did true crime last week, or more like revealing con men stuff. We had a lot of folks actually reach out via social media.
That were like shocked?
Yeah, that were like, oh man, like I never really thought about it this way. A couple of folks were just posting like random, information or stories or stuff like that that's happened to them or family members. So thank you all for the interaction. I was like convinced it was a terrible, terrible topic when I was done editing it, and people were very nice. They were like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed it. So cool. Very much. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we haven't been up to too much. Your dad was in town this weekend, so...
Yeah, my dad was out here. Late celebration for my birthday, which was cool. We saw The Fall Guy, which was
Fall
dope.
Guy with Ryan Gosling.
Quite enjoyed it.
It was very funny, very good. He is incredibly hot in that movie.
He's the buffest I've ever seen him, for sure.
Like, I literally leaned over to Adam. I'm like, look at his arms.
It's funny because he's supposed to be recovering from an injury that was very debilitating for him, and this is like the beginning of the movie where it's like starting to just introduce you to the plot, and you see him without his shirt on. I'm like, there's no fucking way this dude has had it so rough where he couldn't get super ripped. Like, it was quite the transformation for I think the last time I saw him where he wasn't too bulked up.
In Barbie.
Yeah, it was it's a good movie, though. It was kind of meta. They talked about the fact... It's all about filmmaking, obviously.
Yeah.
He plays a stuntman, so it's obviously referencing the fact that, there's a certain story structure and, elements to certain things that you're going to expect as the movie plays out.
But this isn't our movie podcast. We could talk more about it.
I guess I'll just stop because Robin wants me to stop. But I enjoyed it. I'm just letting you folks know that it's a little bit meta, but it's very fun, so...
Because we could just keep talking about it. I had no idea that it used to be, a show or a movie before, It
was a TV series, yeah. So.
And stuff like that, but...
My dad was with us, so he was just like, oh yeah, it's a TV series. Fucking duh. I'm pretty sure it was on TV 5 years before I was born.
Well, so. And then the actor shows up and stuff. Anyway, that's totally different podcast. This podcast, we're the Scaryish podcast. We're here to talk about things that induce fear in people.
Not always, but yeah, for the most part. So
something that freaks me out is... small confined spaces like
this office right now, which is blazing fucking hot.
Our office is always a good size, it is warm.
If you were trapped in this office, you'd be like, this is my tomb for sure. It's 8 by 12.
Our office before this one was smaller.
Yeah, I agree. And it was also very hot. So
for me, narrow alleyways, things like that, they freak me out. Or for me, even trying on a shirt or a dress that is too small and doesn't stretch, I will start to freak out in the dressing room. If I cannot take it off, I start freaking out.
I feel like you panic over a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but I getting trapped like that freaks me out.
Are you? But you're not trapped. You're just
constricted.
Yeah, constricted in that moment. But it's
and the feeling is absolutely awful. I tried to put on some shapewear the other day, and I could not get it down off of my chest. I panicked. I had to go to Adam. I'm like, babe, it's stuck. You gotta help me. I'm freaking out over here. That kind of stuff. Just the idea of getting trapped freaks me out. I hate being squeezed in tight spaces. Even certain elevators will freak me out. I think we've been on some pretty small ones. In Japan, there were really small ones. And the idea of getting trapped in an elevator, totally horrifying. And an idea of an activity that would definitely get me stressed out and full of anxiety is cave exploring or spelunking. and underwater cave diving.
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah, those things. Like,
I know that that's certain people's cup of tea. Yeah. That is not for me.
The underwater cave diving thing, like
how, that fear of drowning you have? How'd you like to drown in the dark?
Yeah. And then when you're down there and your fins just kick up all that sand and stuff and you can't see anything, how do you even keep the oxygen regulated, I
didn't know you had fins. It's pretty cool.
You're trolling me, right? Like
the flippers?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. It was a joke.
Lots of bad things happen in caves, obviously. Like, these cave systems, there's like a meme going around.
Please don't talk about the two maps that overlap that I've already disproved.
I know, but the idea of that, there's so many cave systems in the U.S. Things happen in these cave systems. People go missing all the time.
Just to go ahead and clarify on this, so what she's referencing is a meme that says like the cave systems in the United States, and it's like a map that shows you where they're at, and then disappearances within the United States. And they all seem to correlate to exactly where the caves are, except that someone took a like scatter plot and changed the title of it, and it was disappearances in caves in the U.S. And you can tell because in a lot of areas where there's not a lot of caves, but there's major metropolitan cities, it's showing 0 disappearances. For instance, like Detroit, Michigan, where if you think 0 people have gone missing in the last 20 years, you're a fucking moron. But a lot of people see it and they sensationalize it and they're like, oh my God, this is terrifying. It's the underground people and the mole society. And then all the conspiracy theorists show up on those posts and no one even pays enough attention to realize places where absolutely tons of fucking people go missing is just not represented on the chart because one person was like, I'll just change the title. No one will notice. And then they curl their probably wispy, shitty mustache that doesn't grow out. It's just, they're obviously an internet troll. And so many people fall for that shit. So just had to put it out there. Sorry.
Anyway, obviously Adam's very passionate about his caves.
I'm passionate about people believing bullshit and me trying to clarify that it's bullshit. I still think caves are horrifying. I was in like junior year of high school and I had a friend who wanted to go on a trip. Like we were actually going to go on a trip. And on the way back, he wanted to stop off in like Kentucky and do cave diving. And I was like, I guess I'll do it. I was young. I was up for whatever. And then it said like on the pamphlet, like your chest cannot be thicker than 38 inches. And like I was pretty fit in high school for the most part. Like I might have had like a little bit of a belly, but like I was fit and my chest was already 42 inches. And I was just like, oh, I can't go. And he was like mad at me. I'm like, sorry, you're a tiny dude, man. Like I'm like 6'1". Like this is just who I am. I have never had a chest since like I was maybe 14 that was like narrow enough to be allowed to go on those like cave diving explorations because you need to like sneak your way through these incredibly tight spaces. And I'm like, fuck that.
You are like the corgi of human beings.
My arms are not short, so that is not accurate.
But like you got a barrel chest.
I am barrel chested for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so people die in caves. It happens. And the people that have to go in and retrieve the bodies of those people who die in caves like that, like the people who die in underwater cave diving accidents, things like that. The people that go in and have to find them is just that I think they're absolute legends. And
they're probably getting paid a fuck ton of money to do it too.
Some of them are just volunteers.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Some of them are just volunteers and they just, it's more than just a job to them. They just want to help people. Anyway, I don't think we've covered too many of these types of incidences. I don't think we've covered a bunch of these before. We've definitely covered, airplane crashes, mystery events, things like that. I don't think we've actually covered
We've definitely covered one person who died cave diving.
Really?
Yeah, you covered it. It was a mystery where someone was like cave diving and like they went alone and it took like a really long time for them to get the guy's body out.
Is it the YouTube one? The guy who like posted YouTube videos that I'm going to go to this cave.
I couldn't tell you. Like, okay. I just remember like he died. It was what it came down to.
All right. So I was right in saying we haven't covered too many of these. And this is another one of these that I'm going to cover. But there was one that had something to do with foul play. Like someone got killed or something in an underwater cave. We don't really know.
Yeah, it was someone. It was definitely an underwater thing, and he had dived into it many times.
Yeah,
and people think like his tank was sabotaged.
Yeah, and stuff like that. This isn't one of those. This is purely accidental, but no less tragic. This story is about John Edward Jones and the Nutty Putty Cave.
John Edward, get the fuck out of here.
Why?
Because I talked about the cold reading thing last episode, and the guy who does the cold reading is John Edward.
Wow. I would not even remember that dude's name. That's how little I cared about that guy.
I thought you were going to say that's how little I cared about your topic. Thanks, Robin.
But I know the name of the cave. It sounds like a joke. Nutty Putty, I get it. But the story is really sad. The story of what happens to this guy is really sad. So the Nutty Putty Cave is located in Utah, and it's about 55 miles outside of Salt Lake City.
Okay.
So it's a hydrothermal cave, meaning it's created by
hot water,
varying temperatures and chemistries of water. So different minerals, things like that. It eats away at the rock over time and creates these cave systems, these kind of tunnels through the rock. And they have varying sizes, loops, curves. It creates like some portions that create huge rooms, that you can walk through. And then there's other sections that like are tiny and there's no way anybody could ever fit through there. But it's just absolutely unpredictable when you go into these cave systems. You really don't know, what you're going to come across, if you're even going to fit through these little sections. And temperatures within Nutty Putty stay around 55 degrees Fahrenheit, so pretty
perfect temperature is what you're saying. Yep.
12.7 degrees Celsius for those who use that system. We don't here in America, but
I agree. Metric system makes way more sense than imperial. I will fight over Fahrenheit compared to Celsius.
Really?
It's just more of an accurate reading,
Yeah.
Like the difference between 2 degrees of Celsius is like 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit, So the difference for me in the house on the thermostat between 72 and 75 is substantial, and I think that's the difference of 1 degree of Celsius. So
I like the 0 degrees Celsius is frozen, 100 degrees Celsius is boiling for water. And it's I like that about it.
It's clean,
but,
for sure.
Like, I forget what the equation for Fahrenheit to Celsius conversion is.
No one knows.
It's
no one out there
but
knows.
It's a
32 degrees is 0. And I think like 181, I forget the boiling temperature of water. Might be higher.
I don't remember.
As a result of absolutely no Googling or editing, it's 212 degrees. So.
Anyway, it stays pretty chill throughout the entire year. That's all year round. That's the temperature in these caves.
Cool.
So in 2003, a survey was conducted that mapped about 1,355 feet of this cave system. And it went about 145 feet below the surface.
Okay.
And this cave was first explored in 1960 by a man named Dale Green. When he explored it, he noted how strangely viscous the clay that oozed from some of the walls was, and it was like silly putty, like the texture of silly putty. And for those that are too young to know what that is,
childhood plastic explosive,
because there are people out there who are like, I have no idea what silly putty is. It was like this moldable pink goop that you had.
Yeah.
And it got dirty real quick.
If you took it and you put it on newspaper and you peeled it away,
could peel off like the ink from the newspaper.
Not all of it. Like it wouldn't leave the newspaper blank, but it would copy some of the ink so you could see the image on your silly putty. So you could
make like, a little comic book print.
For sure. I play with silly putty with our nieces. So
do you get it at like a joke store or something?
No, I think you just get it at like Toys R Us or anywhere you can buy toys. I'm sure silly putty's still hanging out. It's just probably not as popular as it once was because
I don't buy kids toys like that anymore. I buy adult toys that are like figures.
We know.
Oh my god, no! Like figures and stupid stuff like that. Anyway, so yeah, the clay within these caves was like silly putty, hence the name Nutty Putty Cave. So if you think the name of the cave is weird, that's why it is the way it is. Some guy in 1960 was like, bro, perfect. We got it. That's what it's called. It's currently owned by the Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration, managed by the Utah Timpanogos Grotto. I probably pronounced that wrong. My bad, everyone. Not from Utah.
Yeah, because when you become a citizen of Utah, you instantly know how to pronounce that.
I don't know. You never know. There's some cities, like, or some streets that we drive past out here, and I tell you, like, oh, no, it's pronounced this way, and you're like, no.
Like what?
I'm trying to
Because you used to call Decatur Decatur, and I was like, it's fucking Decatur, dude.
I remember the first time I think I told my grandpa that or something, and he's like, what are you talking about? There's got to be a city out here that I told you, oh, that's what it's called, and you're like,
oh, you mean when I fake mispronounce Spanish words?
Oh, like Yoruba Valley.
Yeah, and I call it Jerupa.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think I actually think it's called quesadilla? Like,
no, I remember
I know the difference.
I remember the first time you were like, "Oh, we're in Jerupa." I was like, "Yoruba," and you're like, "Oh, I mean it." Yeah.
She was just like, "I'm triggered. I get to correct him. Hooray!"
Anyway, so before this incident with John Edward Jones, it was a popular attraction with Boy Scout troops and college students. So people would come and visit these caves, do some cave diving, chill. It would get approximately 5,000 visitors a year. This isn't a place like Disneyland. You're not going to get hundreds and thousands of people coming a year. 5,000, though, to just go down into a cave, that's a lot of people. I mean...
A lot of crazy people.
Lots of, people that like to risk their lives, because those things are scary. Between 1999 and 2004, 6 different people got stuck in the narrow passages of this cave. And it's funny that so many people go down there, because... the tightest of these passages in there have horrible names, like the Helmet Eater, the Scout Eater.
That one's worse.
There's one called the Birth Canal. It's all
oh my god,
it's all very charming.
So when you say 6 people got stuck in the course of 5 years, like they didn't come back, or there had to be some sort of efforts made to free them?
Let me get there. Of course, they had efforts to free them.
Okay.
But there's also a 45-degree room in there called the Big Slide that a lot of people were like, this room is probably where somebody is going to die.
So when you said 45 degrees, I immediately imagined it was just 10 degrees like colder than the other rooms.
45-degree angle.
Oh, okay.
It's a room at a 45-degree angle. So it's like, how are you going to get any purchase, right? You're sliding down at a 45-degree angle.
No, you do. You can put your gift shop there. Plenty of purchases to be made.
I don't even, it doesn't matter. Whatever. All 6 of those individuals that did get stuck there, were able to make it out alive, but there were efforts that had to be made to get these people out.
Gotcha. That's a lot. It's like over 1 a year.
Yeah. So it's dangerous going down there. It's not just like, oh yeah, whatever, we're just gonna go down these caves.
Imagine going on this cave thing, and beforehand when they're like getting you ready, like, okay, everyone, like, here's what you need to know, here's your safety briefing. Also, you should know at least once a year someone gets stuck down here.
You don't want to be that one person.
Could be you.
So there were actually a few drowning deaths in a nearby cave, not Nutty Putty Cave, but caves nearby. So this one, they had 2 people get stuck in Nutty Putty Cave within the span of a week. And so they decided it's too dangerous. We're going to close down this cave. With the deaths nearby too, they're like, there's just a bunch of safety concerns. We need to figure out what we're doing with this. So they go over that. They close it down. They sign this cave management plan and then reopen in May of 2009. So this cave management plan is supposed to be like a plan for online reservation systems that allows one group to go into the cave at a time, and the entrance gets padlocked at the end of the night so people can't go in. And then you had to apply. So you apply to be able to go down into that cave, so it ensures like safety procedure and things like that are being followed. On November 24th, 2009, John Edward Jones, not the one from Adam's story last week, John Edwards, but this guy and his brother Josh and 11 others, they go to visit this cave. And this is just months after it had reopened. So it's all fairly new. quote unquote new. It's a cave system built over years and years and years. But it was their first time ever exploring this cave system. Before this, John hadn't been in a cave in years. I think he was at the time going to medical school, things like that. His life was busy. He hadn't gone into a cave system in years. He, John, and 3 others went in search of this birth canal section of the cave. And while they were searching for it, they took a wrong turn. And John ends up in an unmapped section of the cave. So he tries to squeeze. He finds this like waist high pocket, and he tries to get in there. He goes head first.
Oh no!
He goes head first through this tight area, thinking that there's going to be the larger opening on the other side, because that's what the birth canal is. You go in, there's a room on the other side. You can turn around in and come back up. So that's what he thinks is going on here. So he goes head first into this, thinking he's going to get to the other side. He pushes himself through this like corkscrew rock formation. He uses his hips and his stomach and his fingers to kind of squeeze himself in there. And he gets stuck. He gets stuck upside down at a 70-degree angle.
I'll take back all my jokes. This is horrifying.
Yeah. So he gets stuck at a 70-degree angle, head first down into this thing. So guys, if you're at a 90-degree angle, he would have been literally like straight up and down. So 70 degrees, you're really freaking steep.
Right.
This guy, he was 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. And he's trying to squeeze himself into this tiny space. And the gap was only, like, the rock formations were like 10 to 18 inches.
Wow. This is madness.
Yes. You're saying back in the day, right? You had like a 42-inch chest. And you're probably same height, same weight. Imagine trying to fit into something that's 10 to 18 inches.
No. Couldn't.
It's insane. But
I get my arm in there pretty good.
What the frick? But John couldn't find any sort of purchase or way to wiggle backwards or turn himself around. And because he couldn't figure out how to do that, he just kept going. Again, thinking there's going to be a wider berth on the other side and I'll be able to do it there. And so he keeps squeezing himself in and he keeps getting closer to what he thinks is this larger opening. And he slides himself down even further. He gets one arm pinned underneath him, and then the other one is like forced backwards by an outcropping of rock. It's just like the most uncomfortable position you could possibly be in this tiny little tunnel. At one point, he's like, okay, I need to squeeze myself in even more. So he lets,
oh my God.
So he lets out all of his breath to like compress his chest, right? Squeezes himself down there even more. And then when he tries to take a breath, he gets stuck because there's no space for him to move around in there.
I mean, okay, this is horrific, so I have to make jokes now to make myself feel better. I mean, he could have just cut off his arms. He probably could have gotten through that way. So that would have been more helpful than just expelling all the air from your lungs and forcing yourself into a space so cramped that you can't even take a breath.
So he's trying to get to this space. He thinks it's going to widen up as he goes through. He thinks there's going to be a room on the other side he can turn out.
I think we got that part.
Yeah. There isn't any. It just gets more narrow and more narrow and more narrow. I think he gets into a space that's like 8.5 inches.
Wow.
It's just so narrow. This area is only about 400 feet from the entrance of the cave. So he's not that far. He's far, but not that far. 400 feet. I mean, if I'm driving in a car, 400 feet down the road. How many?
It's like walking 4 football fields, basically.
Is that 4 football fields?
Yeah, they're 100. No, wait.
That's
like
yards.
That's like walking 1 football field and then a third with some change to spare.
Yeah, so I was going to say a football field's 100 yards. I'm like, what are you fucking talking about? Anyway, going headfirst down, incredibly bad decision. It made it impossible to turn around or make his way back out. When his brother Josh comes across him, he knew it was bad. He's face down in there. He's really stuck. He's pushed himself down. He tries to pull his brother out himself. Like, he sees him, he tries to grab his legs. I think he wraps his own legs around his brother's legs and tries to, like, yank him. And he cannot get his brother out at all. He's stuck. Blood starts pooling when you're at 70-degree angles down there. So he has blood, like, pooling in his head. And he panics. He's like, okay, we gotta call 911. So he goes to call 911. His brother's stuck at 70-degree angle, you know, and there's no way for this guy to pull him out himself. He needs help. News gets out that his brother is stuck. Media outlets are all over it. 137 volunteers try to get in there and get him out. And this guy's upside down. People are trying to find as many of these skinny cavers as they can because they need tiny people to go down there and try to get him out. A number of them did show up and attempted to go down there and help, but nothing was working. They really needed somebody who couldn't get stuck, and people kept going down there to help, and then they would get stuck. And then it would take them 15, 20 minutes to get out themselves. So it's just like this very dangerous situation, for everyone involved. And so they come up with this 15-point pulley system to pull him out. And so it takes them hours to hook all these pulleys into the wall because they're like drilling and things like that. I think they tried to also chip away at the rock around him, and it took them like, I want to say an hour and a half, maybe longer, to get like just a little bit of that wall off, and it just was not enough. So they have a bunch of these pulley hooks in there to try and pull him out. At this point, you know, so much of the blood is in his head, and anything touching his legs is like extremely painful. They have ropes tied around his legs trying to pull him out. And as they're trying to pull him out, one of the pulley hooks breaks off and smashes one of the rescuers in the face. Like, it just hits him in the face. And the guy's just like, I need to get out of here. I'm bleeding all over the place. Somebody else is going to come down and help you. It's just a huge mess. And every time they're trying to put these hooks into the wall, it takes like an hour. It takes like an hour and a half, 2 hours to try and put another hook into the wall. And as they're doing all this, trying to pull him out, they're realizing too, they can't pull him out without breaking his legs because of the way the cave is.
Right.
And every time his legs kind of hit any part on the ceiling or anything, he's in a lot of pain. And if they broke his legs, the trauma, he would not survive the trauma of having your legs broken, being upside down, doing all that stuff.
Like, if you could reach him, couldn't you inject him with something that would knock him out? So that way
they need him to help push him out.
Oh my God.
So if he's knocked out, it's dead weight. So you have dead weight.
But you can break him as you pull him.
But they need him to use his arms and his body to kind of like help him wiggle out. Because otherwise they can't. He's too heavy to just try and pull through this cave system like that. So anytime rescuers would go down there, they would try to talk to him. John tells them, like, I really, really want to get out. Like, I think they have his wife on the phone at some point talking to him. I don't know if she actually gets there. I think she does. But it's just all this trauma, right? Like, your husband's stuck down there and she's trying to talk to him. It's just a really stressful situation. And people are going in and out of the cave, trying to help him out, trying to keep him company. Unfortunately, eventually, they start hearing his breathing getting really slow and really shallow, especially after they had him move. They were pulling him out. They actually made some progress. But when that pulley system broke, you know, he slides straight back in. And his will to fight is like draining and draining. Like, at one point he just tells the rescuer, he's like, I'm gonna die here. This is where I'm gonna die. That's it. There's no way I'm getting out of here. And so he was stuck in that cave for 27 or 28 hours.
Wow.
Upside down like that. He succumbed to cardiac arrest due to the strain on his heart from being in that position for so long, because our bodies are not made to constantly pump that blood out of our heads like that.
Right.
So they actually estimated he would only live for like 8 to 10 hours. He was down there for 27, 28 hours. He died a few minutes before midnight the day before Thanksgiving.
Wow, that sucks.
He was only 26. So he's really young. He had a wife. I think his daughter was 1 at the time, and his wife was pregnant with their son, who they ended up naming John after his father. Richard Downey, the treasurer and historian for that grotto, says that after this, a lot of the volunteers were traumatized because a lot of them went down there and had conversations with him, got to know him. A lot of them prayed with him and things like that. And he says that a lot of them haven't gone back to even visit the area of the cave since. And they all kind of feel like this failure because they couldn't get him out. And what's worse is it's because his body is still there.
Holy shit.
So his body was unrecoverable.
I was not expecting that. Holy
So
fuck.
his body was unrecoverable. It is still down there. The landowners and the family kind of came to this agreement, and Nutty Putty Cave was permanently closed and sealed with explosives. So they say...
So his body will forever be down there.
So his body will forever be down there. So they blew up the cave to kind of collapse the ceiling down near his body. And then they used concrete to fill the entrance to prevent anyone else from ever going down there again. And so it's pretty much his final resting place. That's his gravesite.
That's horrific, man. So, like, the idea that you're begging people, like, I don't want to die here, and you're going to be stuck there for... I was like, oh, so when he decomposes, they'll recover his skeleton. And you're like, no, they closed this place off and filled it with concrete. Like, I'm haunting every nearby business if I'm him. Like, holy shit, that's traumatizing for sure. Yeah, so he that is his final resting place. We'll post a picture of the memorial plaque on our Instagram or whatever social media. About 24 rescuers went to his funeral with his family and everything. That's where his wife, like, announced, you know, that she's going to name their kid John and things like that. There were some cavers that were actually against the closure of the cave, which is insane to me. I understand that if you're one of those people who are like, this is a really good cave system to explore, like, what a horrible thing you're taking away from the community and blah, blah, blah. But his body was still down there. You know what I mean? I
like,
swear, like, if it were me, I'd have been like, I will close this cave and fill it with concrete after we get his body out. If a person told me, don't let me die here, and they passed away, wherever that was, it would be my mission in life to get their body out of there and give them proper burial. This one totally breaks my heart.
Imagine you're waiting for the body to decompose, right? If you think about it, stuff's just going to slide further into the cave. It's just going to slip. There's
preventative measures, obviously, you can take. You already have a pulley system in place, and it's just... This is rough, though.
Yeah, because imagine tying rope or something around his legs to try and pull him. Again, the reason why they couldn't get him out is because when he died, at that point, he's dead weight. They couldn't pull him out. They needed his help to get him out. And, you know, if your idea is like, well, we'll wait for him to decompose and so we can still get his body out, you're just like, imagine pulling the rope around his legs and then tissue and things like that are just going to
eventually
disconnect.
He'll just be a skeleton, is my point.
But then his bones will just slide further into the cave.
If you wrapped his legs, this is a weird conversation, with, like, not rope, because rope will, like, rot, but, like, with cable, so that way his skeleton could not, like, go further down, then eventually you'd have the skeleton of him with the cable around the ankles that you could just, like, pull out.
When your body turns into a skeleton, though, there's no muscle and tissue to keep the bones together. It just would fall apart.
You'd have some bones to bury them.
God. Anyway, this is really morbid, but it's just, they decided that was the decision that the family, everybody made. That they were going to have that be his final resting place. The people that wanted them to keep the cave open, they started a petition to, I guess reopen it or something. But it didn't go through. It failed. Any illegal attempts to enter the cave were thwarted because they blew it up with the explosive and because they cemented over the entrance. So, I can't even imagine if other people had gotten in and caused more incidents. It's just really sad and, again, really morbid to think that these people still wanted to go down into that cave knowing somebody's body is down there.
Yeah, it's a harrowing thought for sure.
This event is just an example of why it's important to be diligent when doing dangerous activities like this. You got to have the right equipment, the right training. You have to be careful. You have to follow all the necessary protocols. There were people that were saying if he hadn't gone head first, you should never go head first into cave diving, things like that. Cave diving, is that what it's called?
Yes.
You shouldn't go head first. He should have gone feet first. That way he wouldn't be in that predicament. But it's just, you got to remember, the things that you're taught when you're first learning how to do all these things, because it's always safety first, right? You want to make sure that you keep yourself safe and the people around you safe. But there's a movie called The Last Descent from 2016 that is about this event. If you guys are curious and you want to watch it, it came out in 2016. So it's really not too long ago.
It's 8 years ago.
It's not too long ago. I mean, Speed was made in 1990 something?
4, I think.
And it's still an amazing movie. Imagine the quality of a movie made in 2016. It has a 5.6 out of 10 on IMDb, so take that as you will. I haven't seen it. I would hope it's still insightful if you wanted to watch it.
It's probably very sad.
I mean, that movie Into the Wilderness is really sad.
Is that the Emil Hirsch one?
Yeah.
Never saw it.
That one's really freaking sad.
Because it's based on an actual person.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so that is the story of Nutty Putty Cave. I know you have your story of your friends who wanted to go cave diving. I don't have anybody in my life who would be like, hey, let's go squeeze ourselves down into these horrifying cave tunnels. But my body would not fit.
You know what's funny is, like, I know I joke around a lot, and I did say, like, people that want to do that shit are crazy. I don't think that's necessarily untrue. But this reminds me, and this is going to sound stupid, but, like, if you ever watched the show The Walking Dead, there's a part in it where the character named Herschel basically is doing something people are telling him not to do because it's risky. And he points out that whether or not you're in a zombie apocalypse or everyday life, everything you do is risky. Everything carries with it an inherent risk. And you risk your life every single day, but you just get to choose what you're willing to risk your life for. And there's different things people do, like cave diving, that seem incredibly dangerous to people like myself, who, one, can't do it. Too thick of a boy.
You are a thick boy.
And, two, don't really have an interest. But I have other things that I am interested in, that I do, that is definitely dangerous, And I think it's important to note that if I'm joking around and just saying, like, these people are fucking crazy, I don't necessarily mean that as an insult. It definitely, for me, is just expressing this is not something that I would choose to risk my life for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was very young. He was 26. I think he still had a lot of like that risk left in him to take. So it is very sad. It's a very tragic story. And I think it's easy to say, like, there's a lot of people who are very callous, especially on the internet where there's that level of anonymity where they just say, things like, well, you shouldn't have done that, and it's very easy to blame a person that had something tragic happen to them in a circumstance where, yes, they were risking their life. But it's like, yeah, it's easy to say that if you're a person that decides that you're going to risk your life by sitting on your couch and just eating fatty foods, and someone who's healthy and decides to risk their life in a different way that's dangerous in just a different manner sounds like a crazy person to you, but you might sound like a crazy person to them. So I do think it's important to, like, keep that in perspective, because this does sound like a death where it's like it's an accidental death caused by someone's miscalculation during a very risky and dangerous endeavor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, everybody takes different risks. Everybody finds certain things exhilarating. They need that adrenaline, you know. They don't find it necessarily, I don't know, as dangerous as someone like us who doesn't do that.
We live a mile and a half away from a skydiving school.
And people jump out of those planes all
day,
the time.
All fucking day. I'll go outside.
Insane.
I'll let the dogs outside. When I'm standing outside, I see people floating down from the sky in parachutes. And I see them, probably 8 to 20 people, 5 to 6 times a day for the last 2 or so years. There's never been an accident. Multiple people over there have jumped well over 10,000 times, you know, like the trainers who've been there for a long time. And when you follow people who are like part of the skydiving, like, you know, community, there are folks who've had, you know, 50,000 jumps. Like, not joking.
It is crazy.
And it's always been safe. And like when you talk to people, like my dad literally asked me during this weekend, like, would you ever go skydiving? I was like, probably not. Just like, I understand that it is very safe in the long run. If you're looking statistically, like how often accidents do happen, it is very microscopic. You know, there's people who don't fly by plane, you know, or they don't travel by plane.
Yeah, they only do trains or something.
Because they're convinced, or cars.
Or cars.
Because they're convinced, like, oh, you know, too dangerous. I don't want to be up in the sky and not be in control. It's like air travel is statistically by far the safest form of travel, you know? I've covered lots of plane crashes.
Yeah.
But realistically, like living in Las Vegas, you see how many planes come in and go out constantly to Las Vegas. Like we lived there for 10, 11 years, maybe longer. No incidents, no deaths whatsoever for any of the planes like landing or taking off from. And it's just like hundreds of flights a day, you know?
Yeah.
But some people just see that and they're like, that's fucking nuts. You're going to put yourself in a tube 36,000 feet in the sky going 400 miles an hour and expect things to be fine. It's like, yeah, I do it all the fucking time. That doesn't make it less crazy.
Yeah.
That's just a risk I've decided to...
You're willing to take.
Yeah, that I'm willing to take, that I've decided to accept and repeat in my life.
I mean, you're willing to get into a go-kart and race with me. And
you're the most dangerous person I've ever raced with.
I'll
you're
take
the
you
only
out.
person that's ever given me a concussion. And she didn't give me a concussion because we crashed. I had crashed. Someone else in front of me wasn't getting out of the way, which was Robin's sister, and I spun her out. And so we wound up both at the wall. And like 5 to 6 seconds after I came to a stop, I was rear-ended at full speed, giving me whiplash to the point where I was like, ow, that really fucking hurt. In my mind, I was like, whoever that was, when this race is over, I'm going to beat the shit out of, like, contemplating, like, I wonder what Bale is, because I'm fucking that guy up. And then as soon as we got pulled out of the wall and everyone was separate, I was like, it was Robin, this fucking slut. So, yeah, certain things are risky. And you never know what could go wrong, is what it really comes down to. So, yeah, I just want to put that out there. I know I toss out a lot of stuff like, this person's fucking nuts. I don't mean it in a bad way. But, yeah. Anyways, no more soapbox. Good topic, Robin.
Yeah, it's really sad, but again, we just want everybody out there to be careful and be safe, and definitely be prepared when you're going into situations like that, because again, you never know what might happen, and that's any activity you have in life, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And write us about it. Let us know. Let us know what your crazy hobbies are.
Yeah. Do you guys go cave diving or underwater cave diving?
And if you've ever experienced something that was scary during your crazy hobby, tell us those stories too.
Yeah. I'm sure people have experienced seeing weird stuff in caves, dude.
Oh, yeah. I'm not just talking about seeing weird stuff in caves. Like, was there something where you're like, I think I'm going to die here? Because that's horrifying, and we would love to hear about it and share it on the show, obviously. So if you have stories you'd like to share with us, doesn't necessarily have to be about the topic we covered today. Could be anything paranormal, supernatural, spiritual, coincidental, true crime, extraterrestrial. Please email storytime@scaryish.com or go to our website, scaryish.com, click on Contact Us, and fill out the form. It comes directly to us, or hit us up on our social medias. Facebook is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Twitter is @scarishpod, and Instagram is @scarishpodcast. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/scaryish podcast. Those are monthly donations with tiers starting at $1. You can also go to coffee, ko-fi.com/scaryish podcast. And those are one-time donations. We're really thankful for everybody who has supported us. You guys are amazing. We couldn't be here without you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Indeed. And yeah, I think that's everything we have for this episode of Scaryish. So we hope you guys enjoyed it. Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.